So we've been together now for 40 years, eh?
I'd just like to say that it's going to be very difficult to do a serious interview with these guys.
Yeah. We don't do serious interviews.
So I'm not going to look at you, OK? So don't take it personally.
Fine, we won't look at you. So anyway...
Oh, I asked for that. OK.
So let's talk about this collaboration. I mean, when you first met, it was, what, the 60s? It was the equivalent of, what, Tim Panally, wasn't it?
Yeah, 67, actually. Yeah. I came down in 67 and...
came down from the North Country?
From the North Country, from Lincolnshire, answering the infamous NME ad from Liberty Records. And,
but was it, I mean, when you first met, when you first collaborated, was there a sense you both had that you were right for each other?
Well, I think it was a sense of desperation because each of us had what the other needed, you know. So I wrote down what I felt was sort of a hodgepodge of what was contemporary lyrics at the time, you know, which were very infused by psychedelia. You know, it was a time of Sgt. Pepper and Whiter Shade of Pale. So I did very pale versions of those kind of lyrics. And Elton, you know, to his credit, you know, felt that he couldn't, you know, he couldn't come up with those kind of goods, and I couldn't come up with the melodies. So I think it was just experimenting and finding, you know, kindred spirits. You know.
But you said, so give me an example. I mean, you've said sometimes that he doesn't understand the lyric when you send it to him.
Well, I think that's got maybe a little blown out of proportion. But there was one time that I can't remember the specific song, but being on the side of the stage and probably maybe 10 years after we'd written the song, and him coming off to the side of the stage and turning around to me and saying, I just realised what that song's about. So I suppose that's it in a nutshell.
When normally you ask, I mean, Sammy Khan famously used to say, yes, which came first? He'd say the phone call, you know.
Right.
But famously, it's the music first, isn't it? And then the words are put on later. In your case, it works exactly the opposite way around, doesn't it?
I don't know, it just worked. And we, you know, over the course of the last 40 years, I guess, we have occasionally tried to do it the other way around, but for some reason it never really worked as well. I mean, there are occasions where he's come up with a melody, and I think sorry seems to be the hardest word. Part of the melody came first, and the title came to me. But, you know, generally, for the most part, it's always been lyrics first.
It's always exciting because you don't know what you're going to get, so there's that element of surprise. You're not slaving over, oh, what should we write, what subjects? I'm sitting there not knowing what bunch of lyrics I'm going to get unless we're doing something for a musical like we did with Lestat, or we're doing something for the Captain Fantastic album or the current one, because they're autobiographical, so you know there's going to be a certain content in there which involves you. But I'm always looking forward to seeing what I'm going to get, and I never know what I'm going to get.
And when you get it, does the tune immediately start in your head? And how do you know?
It doesn't. It doesn't start until I get into the studio. I mean, Bernie's become much more musical. He's made his own albums, now he's toured with his own band. And so nowadays, he comes to me with a set of lyrics and said, listen, I have an idea that this should be so-and-so, this should be so-and-so. So it has got slightly more sophisticated as the years have gone by, but we still haven't written a song in the same room, ever.
I think you met before?
No, I don't know.
Wow. But do you go like...
Do you have a sort of meeting where you discuss what the theme of the album's going to be?
Well, I was just going to say, I think there's a lot of, over the years, a lot of urban myths surrounding the way that we write and certain songs that we've written. And one of them is, you know, that I just sort of write, I send him the lyrics, and that's it. I think, you know, that for the most part is kind of wrong, because I think it gives people the wrong idea. And especially now, I mean, ever since Songs from the West Coast, I think we really sort of reinvented the way that we write. And I think we spend more time, you know, I will actually go to Elton with the body of material and sit down with him. And I won't give him melodic ideas, but we do this thing which is sort of point of reference. Like I'll give him a lyric and say, you know, I see this as a sort of Ray Charles kind of thing, or maybe this is a little like, you know, Every Breath You Take, and those things seem to work.
For example, the bridge, which I did earlier on, he said this has got to be so simple, just piano and voice. And he's absolutely right. There was no way, and I did it piano and voice, except for the choral bit in the middle. And he was absolutely right on and dead on with that, because it couldn't have been done any other way, because it's such a really beautiful lyric. It needed to be simple.
It's interesting the way that you have diverged, though, even though you've collaborated for 40 years. I mean, you live the life of a cowboy. That's the sort of statement in the cuttings. That
it's sort
you
of
have a ranch and you live on a ranch,
Yeah.
and you embrace that kind of lifestyle.
It's sort of the difference between the original album and this album. Somebody said to me, what is the difference between the two, your character on the original album and this one? And I said, well, I have become what the original album, on the original album, what I wanted to be, so...
It's been an amazing ride. We haven't had any stand-up, screaming rows. We both led completely different lives in a way, the way we like to live our lives. We're both different in certain ways, but we're certainly... He was the brother that I never had when I was growing up. And when I did meet Bernie, and he did come down from Lincolnshire, and we did live in my parents' flat in a very small room, in bunk beds, listening to our CDs on our headphones, which...
Vinyl.
Yeah, on vinyl. But we paid, Littlewood's Club Book, we paid for the, every week on the HP. Americans say, what is HP? Is that sauce? And we said, no, it's hire purchase. But it's an amazing relationship between two people that aren't really a lot alike.
Well, yes.
Well, I think that's our saving grace, too. I mean, if we were two peas in a pod, I think, as it says in Tinderbox, about rubbing up together, I think we knew when it was time to take a break from each other, which we did for a short period of time. And I think we just realized it. It was sort of inherent in us to know, okay, we've gone... We were at a point where we couldn't do anything else. We couldn't top what we'd done. And I think if we didn't take the break, it would have really imploded.
Are you listening, fellas?
Well, I was going to say, I mean...
No, it's very similar. These two are like... They're a definite partnership. And
yes.
You have to give... The great thing, you said, well, David was off swimming the channel. You went to do a movie. You have to give the other person the freedom to give them artistic license. You cannot say, you work with me and you work with me only. That is complete and utter... That's the end.
Mm. I'm glad we weren't trying to swim the channel together.
Yeah.
That would have been harder.
Well, it would have been longer as well.
But how do you deal with these tensions that inevitably must occur?
Well, it's slightly different for us because we're both performers, and so I naturally have probably got bigger egos than Bernie, I imagine, who probably doesn't have such a big ego as Sir Elton.
I wouldn't necessarily count.
But can you envisage? Can you envisage being 40 years on, like these two are, being the same partnership?
Well, I think we've been through so much together. I personally hope that we always work together.
Yes.
But
I don't. No, we only had one argument when we toured, which was about the fact that there's a part in the show where I have to kiss Matt quite passionately, and it's a beautiful moment in the show. And I hadn't shaved. But
I was getting a rash.
And he was getting a rash, and that was the only thing that we argued about, because he said that he got a stubble rash when we kissed. Do you ever have that kind of argument?
No, we've never. Funnily enough, we never kissed. And,
have you ever never kissed on the lips?
Never, no. It was never that sort of relationship. People tried to think
Even
it was
for
that
fun?
sort of relationship. No, not Bernie's idea of fun, that, no.
But we'll always, I think, when we started working together, I was doing a lot of stuff with Vic and Bob, and David was doing a lot of kind of serious acting in dramas and things as well, and a lot of writing. He used to write for Ant and Dec.
Yeah.
And,
Did you?
Yeah.
In their heyday?
Well, no, in the early days when they weren't very successful. Because they did a show on BBC. Yeah, so I was doing that. And, yeah, it's a lovely thing when you've got a chemistry with somebody.
Sure.
And you
also,
enjoy it.
And you're sharing something.
Yeah,
and that's the thing for me, that we have shared so much. And if I'd have done it on my own, I wouldn't have lasted as long as I had, because it's not as enjoyable and it's a lonely road. When you've got someone, even though they're thousands of miles away, who you can depend on and you can trust for an honest opinion, and you can share it with, and it makes all the difference, and it makes it so much more worthwhile.
Well, you mentioned that Tinderbox, which Elton's going to sing.
Right.
And so this autobiographical record, what part of the relationship does this deal with? What is it about?
Well, funnily enough, this comes just prior to the bridge, so it's almost a lead into what the bridge sort of becomes. And Tinderbox is literally what we were just talking about now, about how there was a point in our careers in the sort of mid-70s when you know, after the Captain Fantastic album came out, and it went straight in at #1, and it was the first album to do that. And then we followed up that with 2 more albums that went straight in at #1, and Elton was one of the first people that was starting to play stadiums. You know, we played Dodger Stadium, and you just couldn't go anywhere without hearing Elton, Elton, Elton. Yeah. And when it gets to that point, it becomes very frightening, you know. And so there's the analogy or a metaphor for being in, sort of just being in, and we were totally in each other's lives still up to that point. I don't think I'd really even developed a life because I was on the road with him year after year. And
can I just ask, I'm so sorry, I've just thought, did you ever write a song, a lyric you poured your heart out into, and then watched him and he's dressed as Donald Duck?
Well, exactly. I'm sure he'll tell you that that was something that never totally impressed me. But,